So, so yesterday we looked at some of the basic things that you might require as you go on doing your coding, like common libraries and what is a data frame and things like that. They are just like an introduction, but we will learn more during the project. So the reason that we learn while doing the project is one thing is because you learn how to build things, and in any software, this one, right? So most of the time you'll be solving the problems. So it's not about coding or anything like that. So let us try to be as interactive as possible, and stop me if you have any questions, and let us work in such a way that we are working in a in a company, or we're trying to build a project in a distributed format, in the sense that developers are all over the world and we are trying to put together our efforts and build a project. So as some of you are from the industry and some of you are not. So uh, just to give you a glimpse about how the project gets started, and how do we channelize the project execution, and what is the relationship between your requirements till the delivery, what are the process, and like, who are the stakeholders, and also and then we'll come to coding. So that's like last part. So unless we understand all these parts, which are requirements, stakeholders, deadlines, we cannot deliver the project. So that's about it. So let us get started. So in this project, so I try to analyze a couple of projects which can be done in course of 1.5 week or 2 weeks. So and then also I wanted to do a project where you can learn more concepts related to Python, okay, such as data science, databases, and then a request library where you can use REST APIs and generate reports like XLS and such things. So most of the things, if you are able to understand and do this project um, by your own, in the sense that take the understand the code, understand the requirements, and then if you're able to complete it, um, you'll be mostly seeing same patterns in your company, in the college, or wherever you are. So it's a similar pattern. So how does requirement come to you, and what does that requirement means for different stakeholders? So let us try to understand who are the stakeholders here. So one is first is customer. So he's the main stakeholder. And then the second is somebody who is doing that project. So that could be a company, and or a individual, or so on. So within this environment, there are several others who come into play. Like for example, who collects the requirements. So those guys are called as business analysts, typically. And from the business analysts, somebody else picks up the output of business analyst and does things. And then even after all of this, so there is uh, some sort of feedback that goes on to this product. So that is why we see a big product management team in companies, and you have got a product and people are trying to communicate so with each other, so that the customer gets what he wants. So that is the main challenge here, because customer also doesn't know, he's not from a technical background, he doesn't know how to explain things um, in a way that the developers or the stakeholders who are developing understand. Okay. So, for example, let us try to understand the whole process. But before that, let us draw some sort of requirements in a very high level, like a customer. So I get an idea all of a sudden. So I want to start a project. Maybe I want to build a startup where people can just like Google News, right? So if you open your iPhone or Android, whatever. So once you go to this, say Google, so you get a lot of notifications or details like this, like you have news, weather, and whatever your interests are, you get that, like stock market. If you're a regional news reader, you'll get new regional news, political news, and so on, music, etc. And also you get weather data. And I see that there is a lot of opportunity that I can market and make money out of this, which is at a business level. So I think that okay, now let us try to build an app uh, which can do this. So uh, all I want is at a customer level. So I talking as a customer, I'll um, ask something like I'll go to a company or somebody who can deliver this and say that okay, this is my requirements. I want news, and I want say some weather data, uh, and probably some entertainment stuff, like probably entertainment, probably movie recommendations or something like that. So let us just stick to these three, and then let us try to these are like high level requirements. So now at a customer level and at a user level, we know that how it looks like, but how do we break it down so that we can develop this? So that's the main challenge here. So once business analysts talk to customer, what is the requirement, and he understands that okay, this is he needs news. So let us just take this part, and he will ask a lot of questions back to customer. So asking, okay, what sort of news do you want? Like, is it like only the top headlines, or the um, what are your priorities, and is it user configurable, and how does a users who subscribes, how does that look like, and so on. So subscription, and then so on. So he gets a proper requirement for this particular news part, and then he documents it. He documents and then makes a list of things like this. And this document is actually discussed back in the company or with teammates, saying that okay, how do we achieve this? So this comes to project management team, where you'll have an architect. Uh, the money and all this, business factors will be discussed in somewhere else. So let us we won't discuss about that because it's not useful. So let us just focus on the technical part. So I got a requirement, and then it comes to a team, and then business analysts are most of the times business analysts who have worked in technical zone um, are better in translating that to technical requirements and explaining things to architects. So let us say that there is somebody who is doing analyzing these requirements. So it comes to architecture point. So then what architect does is he tries to break down these requirements. Say let us just take one of them. So say subscription. So how does a subscription look like? So what is, if I want to develop any subscription, not just news, for example, you may be subscribing for say everyday milk, or say Netflix or anything like that. So subscription is a uh, is an idea where it is common across the industry. So it's not just for um, very specific for this particular requirement, right? Subscription is a pattern. So these patterns, there are several such patterns. So, well, if we discuss just about subscription, so what could be the subscription? So whenever you try to go and subscribe to something, what you will you capture? So who is doing that? And so let us try to like write down, some um, high level requirements for the subscription, but at customer level he just wants subscription, and he will explain that, okay, for this subscription I also want, say, I want a trial subscription. After some time you want that to be paid, and so on. So this model can be implemented in various ways that architecture knows how to get it delivered. So if we just discuss about subscription, what are the inputs for that? So if you uh, inputs for this subscription model, so probably it's some email, and probably phone number if we want it to be delivered on like WhatsApp or SMS, so on. And what are your uh, preferences? And so we click on tick boxes, right? What are and then we click a subscribe button. So this is something which is an input for subscription. So one who wants to be subscribed, and one who wants the subscription, and then what are his preferences. So that is just for subscription. So so this is how the brainstorming starts. So now I got what should be the input for subscription, and also I can define an output for subscription. So output should be whatever he subscribes for. Say, let us just talk about news. Okay, so this should be the output. How should this output be delivered to that person? That becomes a part of another model which could be delivering it. Say, for example, you are sending on an email, you are probably sending on a WhatsApp, and yeah, so on. SMS. Probably, if you have an app, you can get a notification, or notification gets refreshed just like the Google ones or any news app that you have. So that is the outcome. So outcome is uh, who needs it, and probably at what frequency, and so on. So this is just one very small part. So this is not even this is just making more you know we were getting more clarification, or getting more clarity towards how this should work. And if he has any questions, for example, do you want the preferences to be automatic, in the sense that probably like Google does. Either you can choose the preferences saying that I want regional news, I want stock market news and things like that, or else you can also it can also detect that, okay, you are watching stock market news very frequently, it will add it to your preference. So such questions can go back to business analyst, and business analyst will talk to customer. So can architect talk to customers? Yes, of course, you can talk to customers, but it will be a additional job, because this to do this, it's not simple. So, sometimes if you are in startups, all these things will be done by like very few people, one guy. So talking to customers and getting things on the paper, and documenting it, it's not an easy task, because at this level, if you make any mistakes, you will piss off customer, and probably he gets pissed off and he'll move to some other company or somebody else. So that is why most of the freelancers and startups fail, because of this step, because whatever he says, it cannot be delivered, and it cannot be delivered on time, because we are not clear on the requirement. So that is like a it's like whether you can do it or not. So that is about customer, business analyst, and the architecture part. So let us just take this part, and let us move on to the next step, which is uh, after this, say there is a contract for this, and then how does this move ahead? So once it is put on the architecture, just let us just focus on the subscription, so that we can do the same exercise for news and weather and other things. So how should this be designed? So here at this level, you'll have most of the times architect will be someone who has coded for a number of years and then designed, and then he will move on to doing basically you're moving towards the customer. So more closer to the customer you are probably important person. That is why people get paid, because the customer is paying and you are the closest link to the um, customer. He's the one who is paying. And if you uh, become really good, like you'll be like some principal architect and so on. So how does this get percolated? So there are several there for in bigger companies there will be several levels like principal architect, and then there is a senior architect and all those things. But let us just consider there is one architect and there is one senior developer or designer. So generally senior developers would look at this architecture and discuss with architects. That is the reason we have a lot of meetings in companies. So most of the times we think that and it obviously as humans we get pissed off because there are several meetings for the same thing. And stakeholders are like, if there is one stakeholder coming in, say we are talking to another team, so we'll have to repeat from the beginning and um, things like that. The reason is because we want to bring everyone on the same page, and we need to discuss that and make sure that we get a clarity at design level. So that is why there are so many meetings that happens soon after this architecture is freezed. So senior developer, what he does is he takes subscription. Okay, I know how subscription looks like. So how do we go on designing? So what does uh, he require to make sure that the subscription works? So if you just try to think about subscription, since we are all used to subscription, what would go in as data, right? So these are the email, phone number, preferences, etc. So how do I store this? So probably he thinks about how to structure the data. So which is like structure the data. So here is where your data structures comes into a picture. So and data structure is not just the basic ones that we learn in schools and colleges, right? So it's not just like linked list and so on. So uh, the entire data that you need for this particular requirement, how do you structure the data at a higher level? So that is how there is a uh, data structure design, and this is also called as modeling, data modeling, and so on. So they're basically trying to structure the data in a way that you can access it, you can search it, you can modify it, and you can give the service quicker. So that's the reasoning why we do data structure analysis or the modeling analysis. So once you start doing modeling, so basically what we do is we just draw some diagrams saying that, okay, how does this particular node or data look like? For example, let us just take a look at email. So we think that, okay, the email is just a say some say digant at gmail.com. So if somebody enters this, what should happen in the backend? So I can simply put it into a database, or I should I should be doing something more on top of this, because this could be a paid subscription. And what are the challenges storing these email IDs in the database? So we sort of list out the challenges. For example, that email ID could be wrong ones. So I need a valid email. And I also I can, for example, I can enter somebody's email IDs. It frequently happens. So you may be receiving some, notifications on your email saying that, okay, this is your, this is what you have subscribed and welcome to registration, registering, thanks for registering, and so on. So those are, you feel that it is spam. Maybe somebody else has by mistake they have used your email IDs. So you need to sort of, one is at a string level, you need to validate the mail. You cannot take invalid emails. Second thing is you need to validate whether that person is a real one. So at that level of validation, you have another validation. And once it, this process itself is sort of a mini project, because you need to take that, validate, and send a mail, and you also need to sort of maintain um, list of email IDs, and you also need to have uh, some table where you can say, okay, this is an email ID, whether you should store those states, email ID, whether it is in a registered state, just signed up state, and whether it is validated, and then whether it is a real person, and how long you can keep it into your database, because you cannot store these things for forever, right? So if I am say I'm a competitor company, and or else I'm a hacker, I want to bring down your database, I can simply send a lot of requests just to fill up your database, right? So I also need a timer saying that, okay, when this should get, this row should get activated. So once you are only a valid person, you click on that, you get receive an email saying that, are you the, okay, thank you for registering. Click on this link to confirm that it is your email ID. Only then it sorts of, sort of we tick that, okay, this is a valid user. So you can see that customer has no idea that all these things are happening here. And probably to, in order to develop this, now we have a lot of patterns, but imagine we didn't have such a pattern. So these are all called design patterns and architecture patterns. There is a thin line between architecture and design. Most of the times we interchange the words. So generally, the how you should differentiate design and architecture is, at architecture level, we don't talk specific about how it is getting implemented. For example, subscription. There is no uh, you know there is no talks, or there is no documentation related that, okay, you should use, say, MySQL database or PostgreSQL database, and you should use some sort of uh, you know um, the scheduling jobs and so on. So such discussion won't happen at architecture level. But when, if you are sitting in a room with architects and designers, so these things come up. But when you document it, what happens is the architecture document should not talk about the specifics about implementation, like which language are you going to use, what sort of design patterns are good to use. So such things are like separated. So it is not a hard line. It is just to make sure that people understand. You should be able to take that architecture diagram or architecture document and re-implement it with something else. For example, there could be say I think a lot of people have gone through this change. Say, for example, there is organization change, there is modernization. The code which is written in Fortran changed to Java. Now Java code is getting changed to Python and so on. But the architecture doesn't change so frequently. Okay, so that is how the architecture and the design is separated. At design level, we actually can talk about, okay, how do we, so let me just clear this. Yeah, recording will be available, so you can look at this brainstorming session later. So at design level, what we generally do is, let us just take the subscription. So I was talking about email, and same thing happens for different fields. So one is data modeling, and another is how do you split this data modeling into different pieces. That is where your database design comes into picture. Like for example, how you are say you are storing subscription data in one, saying that okay, this is you know you know say what you are subscribing topics, and probably you are storing subscription start date and end date somewhere else, and you can put everything in one table, but you should be able to change this. The reason that we split the database into different tables is so it comes under ER or entity relationships in database context. But why we split the tables into different pieces is because we sort of do a relationship, draw a relationship between those, because we don't want duplicates. For example, if I have email ID and say list of subscriptions here, I want to subscribe for say stock market, and I want to subscribe for say some entertainment news, so on. So if I have a single table, I will have like some some ID here, and then I'll duplicate all these rows just because the subscriptions are changing. But if you have the contact information, which is one of them is email, and then if you have list of subscription already, you can simply link them saying that okay, these are the topics, subscription topics, and this is what he has subscribed. So you can just make a sort of a list inside this. So this entries, so now even if you have like multiple rows, you won't be duplicating the data. So it's like a pointer. So you don't want to duplicate the data. That is the main reason that we do the data modeling, and there are different ways to do it. So that's a different topic altogether. But this is how it works. So one is data modeling, and then on top of this data, we there could be some systems where database is not involved at all, but generally there is a data modeling even if there is no database involved. So because we are finally what we are trying to do is we have data, and then we are taking some action on top of it. So once the data modeling is done, we sort of write functionalities on top of it, like what should be the so this data modeling is a result of requirements, and then we draw functionalities out of it. Say I want to get list of all the subscriptions by a user. So get list of all the subscription by that particular user. So input will be that particular user, or probably email ID as a key, and then I should be able to get all the list of subscription. So on your app, probably user is trying to modify the subscriptions. So this is one of the functions that gets hit in the backend, and from this um, function, so this function accesses the database, and there will be, if it is an SQL database, you'll send some query, say select star where email ID is equal to this particular guy, and get all his subscriptions. So that is how you are able to see or modify your subscription. So those are functional requirements. This is just one functional requirement. So we split into at an architecture level, generally split requirements into two parts. One is functional requirements, another is non-functional requirements. So now you can see that we have discussed several levels, and we aren't even close to discussing about how it is getting implemented at coding level, which we want to do. So coding is just a small part. If you do not understand these things, you cannot write code, right? Because you don't know what to write. There could be, you can, you try to Google, you can, try to look up on Stack Overflow. If you don't know the requirements, what will it do, right? So that's the main idea, to understand anything that you write code. So you should always think about how the customer is going to use. So this is one of the reasons why Amazon is a successful company, because they have this one of the principles at even at junior developer level, that uh, think like a customer. So they have some trainings and so on. So if customer uh, is not addressed through this requirement, like scrap this feature or anything, something like this. So they make decision based on how customer going to get benefit out of this. Okay. So that is one of the reasons that you always want to look at the requirement documents and come back to this. Okay. So okay, I was talking about functional requirements and non-functional requirements. So this is an example for functional requirements, like getting list of all my subscription. Okay. Um, List subscriptions. Okay, this is just an example. This is just one small part of our subscription app. So what do we mean by non-functional requirements, and why do we require them? So non-functional requirements, some of the examples are like security, and say your um, data privacy, and probably you want to deploy in a way that it can be, so if something goes down, for example, you have hosted this service on a server, and if server goes down, what should happen to the service? What should the customer, how the customer should be served? So in such cases, there are different ways. One of them is like, nowadays there is something called as HA, which is called as high availability. So this is one of the like non-functional requirements. And most of the applications that we deploy today, for example, if you develop an app and put it to Google Store, or the Apple's App Store, this is automatically done in the backend. So your app won't go down, because you can, the server, if that server goes down, somebody else will serve that thing. So that is part of deployment. So these are like, you can actually list out several, like probably at least 7 to 8. So there are books like this, for example, software architecture in practice, where you don't have to like read end to end. So you can probably read the content, not just this book, any book, but it will talk about what are the what an architecture should look like, what an design should look like. So, for example, availability, interoperability, modifiability, performance, security. So these things. So what companies do is testability, usability. There are several, like at least there are 10. So those are non-functional requirements. So this needs to be built in for most of the projects. So this is one of the important things which startups or people who are starting out, they miss out this. So this is the most important at apart from the like functional requirements. So functional requirements, anyways, you can do it, but this is like a deal breaker. So if you, for example, just to give how these things work. So we have collected the user data in a table, and we have that users. So what could happen is you deploy it to say China. So China is one of the countries where your their data should not be exposed outside the world. So they have such requirements. So this so every country has its own data privacy requirements. So who takes care of this is there is a CTO team in every company, and they have some people who constantly they read about these things. They also have legal teams, and they come up with a document for every company. So if you are you can go and search in your company's internet website. So there will be guidelines and privacy requirements. So you can use keywords such as GDPR, some global, some privacy requirements, something like that. So that will be defined for every country, and you should, if you're deploying app or you're collecting data from that particular zone country, you need to stick to that. So that is just one example of a non-functional requirement. So what happens if you do not comply to this? You will be blocked. For example, India has blocked the TikTok, right? In order to use TikTok, you need to use VPN and use it. So that is one of the impact. So TikTok cannot make money from Indian traffic. So that's the impact. So if we are developing the subscription service, if we do not comply to these non-functional requirements or these privacy requirements, then this app is going to fail. So these are the things that we generally, like we ignore, and we start developing it. So we should be aware of this, and then do things in a right way. So that's about areas functional requirements and non-functional requirements. Okay, so let us get back to the subscription service. So these are the things that you need to keep in mind, and you can read about architecture and design. There are several things under this. Okay, so let us try to so draw some sort of rough diagrams. So whenever in a company, if now we are at a design level, so where we need to be. Okay, so now we are all sitting in a in a room, and how do we sort of design this? And before designing, we should identify the components. So what are the components for this subscription? So so if you can think, and just try to uh, tell what you think of, what comes to your mind when you think of subscription. So we can do that exercise, and then we can draw the diagram accordingly. Yeah, yeah. Feel free to speak. So what comes to your mind when we talk about subscription? How should what is the first thing that you see while subscribing?
The content part.
uh, Content. Okay.
Content, like if you want to, like, YouTube video subscription, if you look at it,
Okay.
so we just look at the content, how the content is, then we can subscribe.
Okay, so it's a okay, it's actually a preference, like what you prefer. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so okay, yeah, that's good. So anything else? So how did you get inside, say YouTube or any website? Like how are you able to subscribe? What makes you to be able to subscribe?
Like basically how the um, author author will be explaining the topics,
Okay,
or
that's fine.
how
Like how did you like log in? Why are you able to even log in to that particular app?
uh, if
What is
we
that?
would be wanting some particular information to get it more clearly, or
Okay. So like okay, that is why you are doing this.
uh,
So, like how are you able to log in? So what do you use to log in?
uh, Gmail itself, right?
Okay, so your
User interface.
yeah, user interface. So
User intro, yeah.
so
Sorry.
user interface is just a interface that you see, right? So but in the backend, you can this data is percolated back to backend, and there is something called as user management. So user management. So if you just try to draw requirements for just for this, then user management will be like registration or sign up. And uh, as we are discussing, there is validation, and you can also choose your like terms and conditions and so on. So this comes all this is part of user management. So this is one component of the subscription. And what else you can think of? What are the other things? So how frequently do you get, say, in YouTube especially, there is a bell button and there is subscribe button. So how does that? What is it called? Like, can you think of any terms or in terms of how frequently you get the, you know, notifications? So one is preference, user management, and can we call it as notifications? Notification models. So what does this notification um, contain? So basically, notification contain like how frequently, and you can enable and disable this.
Maybe interrupts or something. No.
Yeah, it's a notification interrupts, like sends a notification, and like it could be on email or it could be on your app, or it could be on through SMS. So notification, so frequency is one of the items, and enable or disable is one thing, and also probably so you can now understand like there is a relationship between notification and user management. So if you draw a table, so you'll have a user management, and probably you'll have like a notification table, and then it's somehow linked to user table, and you know, you send notification based on the frequency. So that is one of the parts. So anything else that comes to your mind? So notification is one thing. So how you can also think of how how to send a notification. So it could be email, SMS, or it could be, say, on app notification. So this in the backend, it's just there is some code which looks at the database, and then it looks compares probably if there is any event, and it notifies. So all this notification is sitting on top of something called as event management. So there are events happening, and watch out for events, right? So you can also call this as uh, event watching or something like this. So if we say if there are different people, so you can come up with different terminologies, and in fact different modules as well. But if we are just brainstorming, it need not to be like it's just a trying to understand what are the components, and we are trying to split. So you don't need to be like 100% right at this point of time. So what happens after this is interesting. So let us just freeze this. Let us just take, say, this content and user management and say notification. Just this three parts. Let us see how we can percolate it down to now we are just drawing diagrams. Okay, so let us take notification, user management, and yeah, just let us take these two, and we can improve later. So now we know what a notification looks like, but we need to document this. So in order to document, the only two things that matter for us as a developers is what is the input, what is the incoming data, and what should be the output. So even at this stage, user management. For every action, there is an input and output. So what are the inputs and what is the output? So for notification, so what could be the input? There is some change in event which you are watching, event, say there's a new news. So, and then you sort of get a notification. How that happens in the backend is that there is some change, somebody is watching that event, and you get a notification. Right? So that is it, that event is the one of the inputs. And then probably you also want to look at when to send this. So probably there is a change in weather, but you don't want to like get notifications all the time. Probably say in LinkedIn, if you have subscribed to jobs, so you can also choose whether it's weekly, or it is say daily or monthly jobs. So how does this happen is based on the frequency. So probably frequency is also one of the inputs. So events and probably frequency. So what is the output? User should be able to get that notification. So change in event frequency probably will collect all the events. For example, in LinkedIn, it's list of jobs. So there is a database which are where things are getting populated from different sources. Probably recruiters are logging in the jobs. Probably the users who are like you and me, so who are looking for job, probably subscribe to that particular search the job and click on the alert. So event frequency, and also you need to be able to send the notification, right? So what is the other thing that you require is user details. So these are probably the roughly these are the inputs, and output is probably how you uh, format or what is the data that you are sending in. So those are probably events in a certain format, and um, you are pushing out to a user. Probably event is an output, but you also need some sort of destination to push this destination, where probably this is an email ID, um, or SMS, phone number, or whatever. So outcome of this notification should be the event. Say a new job is posted or something like that, or you're following somebody and you get notified. So that is roughly we sort of fixated on what should be the input and what should be the output. So if you even if you keep brainstorming, you'll get new ideas here. But this is how you sort of roughly do this, and you don't have to get clarity at this level because we are just brainstorming. So what should be the say for example we are in the okay, next thing is we can do the same exercise for users. So we already discussed this. So user management, what should be the input? So their contact details, which is email ID, phone number, etc. And probably when you're subscribing, probably he is choosing his preferences, and you're putting it in table. Okay. So then you are okay. This is your uh, now you can start drawing diagrams like this. So this is what we do in companies, right? So we say notification, um, and then we say user management, and we draw some sort of uh, you know arrow marks. So why do we draw arrow marks? Is there is some movement in data. So you input data from say UI, and it gets into data, logs into database, which is that is why this arrow mark is there. And probably there is some process here, event management, which is like watching out for events like change in jobs, etc. And this event gets notified to this. But how does this get notified? Probably there are different patterns to do this. One of the patterns is to watch for these events. So yeah, you can watch for these notifications. Once you watch this, you send out a notification to where? To some user. So probably this gets into a queue. Like we're just brainstorming. There may not be a queue at all. Why do you? So now we are brainstorming, and somebody says that, okay, what if there are just 10 users, you don't require a queue. What if there are 1 million users? Probably you require a queue. So things like that. So this could be another module which is not coming from the customer, because this is just for the usability and this is just to make things smoother. Probably notification will send it to a certain queue and that gets distribution. So we can call this say as distribution center or something like that. Okay. So this is how the diagrams get developed. And now if you now we get catch hold of one component, say user management. Now we understood that there is customer, there is business analyst, there is architect, and then there is senior software developer who designs these things. And nobody is working independently in the sense that you cannot simply give out a document to senior developer and say come up with a design. So that doesn't happen because there needs to be a lot of discussions and to and fro movement about clarifying questions. And that is why we have sort of meetings, mail chains, documentation, conference pages, and so on. And once it is freezed, now we know what is the input and what is output from senior developer who is now a software designer. So then it probably he is also one of the implementers, but yeah, then it goes to developers. So this is where the development happens. This is just a 1/10 of the whole process. Okay. So once the developer say we develop this user management, we'll come to know, we'll discuss about how we are going to develop this. Um, the specifics we can discuss tomorrow. We'll just take the user management and try to implement that. And I suggest that you do your own brainstorming, because you can come up with different diagrams and all of them are right. Because say if you want to draw a diagram of elephant, um, all of us can draw different elephants, right? So uh, from different sizes and different positions, different viewpoint, things like that, but all of them are elephants. So, but the finally customer needs that diagram. So a painting of an elephant. So for him, that's all matters. So how we design, why, and for every decision that we take, we should have a reasoning, or else that decision won't be carried forward. So if we take, uh, let me take from developer point of view, what a user management looks like. So I have got inputs, say email ID, and say phone number, contact details, subscription preferences, etc. So I'm going to collect this. I'm going to write a function, uh, say def something, and user registration. So this is one of the flows, right? So once user starts signing up, sorry for the spelling mistake, so sign up, and there is validation. There is cross-checking whether he's a cross-check whether he's a valid user. So if you want to do the write a function for user registration, you will take this contact details and you will probably before putting into database. So you don't start writing the code in one shot. What you do is you write the comments either on paper or on your whiteboard somewhere and get a clarity. So user registration, how does it look like? So we are all used to user registration, so that's why it looks very simple. But something which you are not used to, it's difficult to come up with steps. So that is why we need to think uh, step by step and avoid conflicting statements, which is also called as ambiguity. So user registration, what should be the first thing that we need to do? Probably I need to validate email. Validate email. And then next step, what should I do? Probably I'll also validate phone number. So there could be several validation. So this all could be a different function altogether. Say validate underscore email, validate underscore phone number, etc. All these functions could be kept in a file called as validate.py. This is not the only way to do it. So this is one of the ways to do it, where we organize now, as I was talking, right? So in the modules and packages lesson, so there is a relationship between architecture, design, and your code structure. So this is how we are trying to realize that. So there is an architecture where we spoke about user registration and design about what is the input and what is the output. And then if somebody now looks at validate.py, looking at the architecture and coming to code, he knows that, okay, this is how this part of the code fits into that particular block of the diagram. So that is the relationship. Okay. So this particular module can be called as validation. And second, it could be cross-checking. So whether he is a real user. So how do I ensure that this is cross-checked? Probably I need to send a mail. So to send a mail, um, send email. So I'm not going to send simply an email, right? So I need to make sure that that person clicks on something and that gets notified back to my system. So how do I write code to that? Probably it is a function called as say cross check. Let's just define a function called as cross check what say email or confirm email or something like that. So email, and email ID is the input, and what happens in the backend is that you're going to send a mail. So send a mail with what? So you need to, before sending a mail, I need to generate some sort of an ID to track it. Say probably a unique number, or probably a link which can actually set one of the flags in my database saying that, okay, this is verified. Okay, cross-checking is also called as verification commonly. I didn't get that term, verification. So send email with a certain link. So how do you generate this particular link is a separate function. So now we have what are the functions that we have? One is user registration. Inside this, there is a module called as validate.py. So there is another file. Probably I can put all these things in one file. I can call this as verify.py, verify email.py. The logic probably goes inside this. In fact, you can write everything in one file, but that won't be manageable code. Okay. So this is how we are trying to break down the requirements to a functional level. So now the implementation starts. So now it's like we have just it's like drawing a picture. So before painting something, you sort of have a sketch in your mind. So you sort of if there is some sort of canvas, you sort of sketch out, say here there should be some trees, and there should be some sort of river here, there should be a home here, and things like that. So this is just a sketching out. And then in a bigger canvas, you all right, this is a, just consider this is a sketch pad. So that's a better example. Sketchpad is nothing but the architecture or the probably business analyst's book. From there, probably somebody who's the same in art, it's the same person. So he takes a note, and then in a big canvas, he tries to draw this in such a way that you can paint it, and then you start painting it. So that painting little things like trees, branches, leaves, water, home, probably there is a fence here. This part is actually the development. The specifics is the development. But those specifics, simply understanding those specifics or simply becoming an expert in those specifics doesn't make a very good developer. So the most important thing is going back to the requirement and understanding what is happening. So more closer to your understanding with the customer. So you can develop better, because now generating a code is not a big deal. I'll show you an example. So previously we used to like Google things, right? I'll just show you. Probably you have used, but I'll show you how it looks like. Um, I'll take just 2 minutes. Let's close the session. Why coding is not so important now is just an example. So I'll write something here. So uh, that how do you get into business of asking, say, ChatGPT or any other tool, right? So unless you understand the customer requirement and understand the process so far that we have discussed, you cannot do this. So generating code or writing code is not a big deal anyway anymore now. But if you do not know what is inside that, what to ask, that is one of the problems. And we also should know how to debug things, right? So there is one more thing. Okay, so let us say um, uh, what did we discuss about okay, verification email validation email. Okay, um, writing function in Python to validate email. Uh, you mean that? Okay, this is the function that it got generated. You can simply copy it and put it back to your thing and work it out. Now the problem is, now you have generated the code. The problem with uh, most of the times now there is there's a trend that developer job will go away and things like that. Why developer job won't go away is the reason that there is a context that developer works in, right? For example, I'm asking for a certain thing, and somebody who is not from a coding background, if he or she does this, he do not know what to ask, how to ask, and how to validate this. Probably I pick this code and it doesn't work for some cases. Okay, so in fact here the email id is like standardized across the world, but in other cases probably it doesn't work properly. Okay, so I can say generate unit tests as well. Now you can see that it's generating so unit tests. So this is how easy it is to write code now. But to generate the code, unless you understand the whole process, it's not easy. So another second problem is uh, it's difficult to work. So we do not generate code every day, right? We do not write new code every day in our companies or anywhere you are working. So what we most of the times we do is we work with the existing code. So that is one of the challenges, that you need somebody to understand the context, why that code has come. So why there are some tweaks. So code is not always 100% well written, because there are people involved, like somebody who is a good coder, but there is a lot of pressure on him to deliver in a short period of time. So he will find out shortcuts. So those are the things which actually matter. So it's our developer jobs are not going to go away. Only the uh, only the way that we work is going to change. In fact, we were working similarly. In fact, if there was no chat GPT, you'd do the same thing. Python, say email verification. Okay, so you do this, and probably we will go to Stack Overflow and find out, right? So this is almost same thing that I did. So only thing is I'm skipping that particular step, and I have like now it's like an enhanced assistant. So I have another person who can assist with all this code validation, writing my own use test cases specific for my requirements. So this was already there. So we were doing like copy this code and paste it. But what to pick and what not to pick and how to validate is the knowledge, right? So that is the reason that you need to know a language you know, quite well, so that if something breaks down in a, say, this is just few lines of code, breaks down in 10,000 lines of code, you need to check the logs and come back to narrow down the problem into module, probably at a package level, at an different various levels, and understand the inputs, and then come to the code, right? So it is just 1/10 of what we are doing. So that is the reason that we don't have to be afraid, or we don't have to be worried about jobs and all these things. This is just another tool. When you lose out is when we say that I'm not going to use ChatGPT because I'm going to write a better code. So that is not going to happen. So all the um, developers, all the companies are going to implement or use such AI generative models for generating code. So you should be able to use that. So if you just spend a week, so you can use this. But your core knowledge is your programming skills and how to debug. So in order to debug, you need to know why, what are these things. For example, what is asset true? Say, what is this particular pattern? What does that mean? Why he's returning here? Can I do it better? Can I improve the performance and so on? So these are the things that you're not going to get to a level where you're a good developer unless you practice these things. And from that plateau, then you're learning, and and the learning curve will go exponentially high with these tools. So that is about how to use tools and how the industry is changing, and why you need to know the coding part better, and it will make you better asker, because you are the guy who is asking things from those generative models. So it's just like saying you should know, if you know what to ask, you will get it. So even in philosophical way, people think, right? So if you have a desire that I want to go to this place, so I want to get into, say, tier one company, and you in this place, say Google or whatever. So if you decide, you can go there, right? If you don't decide, if you just have a dream, it cannot happen. So same pattern applies here. You should know what to ask. That's the whole game in this context. But yeah, it feels like we are once you start using it, you feel like we are sort of cheating, but it's not cheating. It happened even in early 2000s when we started using Google and Stack Overflow. We were like, okay, code is already there, and it's just easy job of copying and pasting from Stack Overflow, right? So it's not an easy job, because you should know what you search and validate it, and then once you put into the code grows to 10,000s of lines of code, and then you need to like solve bugs inside that. So that is the challenge that will always remain as a challenge. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks for staying. We overran 10 minutes. Any questions at this point of time, like how it works, how we uh, do the requirements and etc. So it's like, just imagine you're making a drawing. So it's just sketches. Sketches are like architecture diagrams and design, and then coming to the implementation. Once you start implementing, that is where your product starts growing. Yeah, yeah, that's it for today's session. Yeah, thanks for staying there, joining. Yeah, we will start implementing from